Okay, hi. As of 4 days ago, I am Emma Wiles. If we've met before, I was Emma Van Imogen, and you should update your brain. This is my honeymoon, so I hope you all enjoy this. I'm going to present a paper about algorithmic writing assistance on resumes in an online labor market. This is joint with Uniqua and John Wharton. So in recent years, AI and machine learning have really become a lot more involved in hiring processes. Most of this effort, though, has been around decreasing and overcoming search frictions with tools like recommendation systems. But what is sort of newer and only recently more been tried is using algorithmic approaches to help job seekers better present themselves to the market. So, already workers and firms are using large language models to write resumes, application materials, job posts, all sorts of things. And if this is GPT-4, it can write, I can't fit it on the screen, but it can write a sort of decent resume for me. But an important question for us is, is this resume, if I were to submit it, more or less informative than what I would have otherwise written? Let's say I was otherwise going to write this. By instead submitting this very polished one that ChatGPT has written, you're removing the fact that I have this very short, brusque, very typo-filled writing style, and it's possible that that is actually a very important indicator that I have, little attention to detail or am a poor communicator. So what we're going to ask in this paper is, can algorithmically enhanced writing improve hiring outcomes for job seekers? And, if so, should employers care? So first off, in general, there's evidence that recruiters and employers care about writing and application materials. There's sort of an audit study where researchers send fake resumes to real jobs and vary the number of typos in it, and they find that the better written resumes get more callbacks. But these involve fake resumes. We don't actually know who would have been hired, how they would have performed in the job, that sort of thing, and they lack realism because they are typos added in by researchers. So if firms and recruiters do prefer better writing in resumes and cover letters, then should all workers start using this? There are some arguments for this. For example, there's zero marginal cost to using ChatGPT. It scales really well. It's accessible to basically everyone. And it is possible that it could reduce frictions, like information frictions on both sides of the market, because then both sides can better understand what it is the other person is trying to offer or what their skills are. And then the other thing is they can potentially give more actionable, targeted advice. They can rewrite you a sentence, or they can write you a whole paragraph, as opposed to just giving sort of vague advice. But then the risk here is that this could destroy useful information and then make not so great job seekers look much better. And this would be if writing quality could be a good signal of worker type if workers who write better are also better workers. So in this paper, we're going to do two main things. First, we're just going to document the relationship between writing quality and hiring outcomes in a large online labor market. And then we're going to then test the causality of that relationship with an experiment using an algorithmic writing assistance software from 2021. It's not really generative AI, to vary the quality of workers' resume writing. So this experiment was run in 2021. New workers to this platform were randomized into treatment and control groups. The treated workers, upon registration, when you were meant to write your resume, they gave you a text box. They had this algorithmic writing assistance built into the text box. And then control group workers had status quo experience. So the two main things we're looking at is, do treated workers fare better in the market? And then, is writing quality a useful signal of worker ability? So you guys seem to know what online labor markets are, so I'll go very quickly through this. In this large online labor market, it starts with employers posting a job. They're long and short-term jobs, anything that can be done with internet access and a computer, and so not geographically constrained sort of thing. Workers apply for jobs with a cover letter, a wage bid, and it's a sort of diverse pool of workers. It's a global marketplace, and there's a real cold start problem. Only about 6% of workers who register are hired within a month. So there is room for help. Okay, so employers will then search amongst these applications, pick amongst their applications. They can also search amongst all workers, and they can invite them to apply. And then when they get all their applications, they can hire someone based on their previous work experience, their cover letter, their wage bid, and their resume. So if a contract is formed, then the job is completed online. And at the end of the job, the employer and the worker both rate each other. So that's going to be very important for us to untangle this. Okay, so first I just want to try and provide some evidence that there is a relationship between writing quality and hiring in the observational data before I move on to the experiment. So here the outcome is an indicator for whether or not a new entrant to the labor market is hired within their first month on the platform. So the x-axis is going to be the deciles in terms of their error rate of their resume. So on the left is sort of the best writers, on the right is the worst writers. We're truncating at an error rate of 25%, because if more than 25% of your resume is writing errors, that would be very crazy. So it's 98% of resumes are here in this truncated sample. And you can see that there is a negative relationship between error rate and the probability of being hired. We can also break down these errors into more sort of the fine-grained error types, but the general sort of takeaway is that more per word grammar errors, typos, all these sorts. They're all kind of negative. Some of them are significant. There's too many outcomes for me to take any of them particularly seriously on their own. But in general, one additional error of any type is associated with receiving 1.4 fewer job offers, controlling for a host of things. Okay, so why are writing quality and hiring positively correlated? So if you believe me that they are, then there are a couple things that could explain this, or that could rationalize this. So one thing which we'll call the signaling view is that writing ability signals something about worker quality. And maybe it's diligence, attention to detail, communication skills, writing skills. And then the other view we're going to call the clarity view is one where just good writing simply helps employers better understand what it is that the job seeker is proposing, what their skills are, what they can do, and then allows them to be in the consideration set if they're good. And so if we wanted to test these two theories, we would randomize writing quality and then see if better writers get hired. If workers with better writing get hired, despite being no better workers, then the signaling view would predict that you've basically just tricked a bunch of employers into hiring worse workers. And then the clarity view would predict no effect to employer satisfaction. We have a model that I think I'm going to skip for time, but the sort of important takeaway is that it rationalizes the clarity view, and the way we're thinking about it is that the treatment is going to lower the cost of exerting effort on your resume. And what will then happen is that then more high-quality workers are going to signal to employers that they are high quality. And so this is going to raise wages, or it's going to not, so it's not raise wages, it's going to have the workers that get hired be higher wage, and it's going to make high techs more likely to get hired. And if we think of ratings as a function of employer surplus, then we would basically expect no impact to ratings, because while more expensive workers are getting hired, they're also the more productive ones. Okay, so now the experiment. So once again, the experiment was run in June 2021 on sign up to this platform. It was about 500,000 job seekers at the start, and then with attrition it was down to about 200,000. And it's on the profile creation step of registration. So while a freelancer is writing their profile, they are going to have these little underlined phrases that then the software will give suggestions for how to fix. And so it will fix things like spelling and grammar and typos, but it will also suggest these more nuanced measures of writing quality. And so if something is unclear, even if it's wrong, it'll tell you, here's how you can make it more clear. So our first stage is that the treatment decreased the error rate of almost every error type. By the way, this is a different software that we're using to classify errors than the one that was used in the experiment, otherwise that would be a mechanical relationship. So it's a different type of software. It looks like there are fewer errors of all types. And now we want to see how these job seekers fare in the market. So here we're going to look at our main outcomes. The x-axis is the percent difference between the outcome, the treatment, and the control group. Okay, so first, we want to see if there is a change to workers' behavior. We're not really interested in if a worker gets this software into the text box, if they then get really enthusiastic and apply for more jobs because they think they're so good and they think they're in an experiment, and so they raise their wage bids and they apply for more jobs, because then we won't capture what the employers, how the employers responded. But it did not appear that workers had to change their behavior, and there was no evidence that they knew they were in an experiment. Next, we look at things like number of invitations to jobs. So workers can be invited to apply for jobs. There's no effect here. This makes complete sense because workers never show up in search results if they are new to the platform, and the whole sample is workers who are new to the platform. So they're never going to appear. I also don't see an effect to interviews. Interviews are kind of possible on this marketplace, but a bit weirdly defined. So I'm not entirely sure what to take away from this, but we didn't see an effect to interviews. But we do see an increase in the probability of being hired and the number of times they were hired by 8%. And then lastly, we see hourly wages increased by about 9%. It seems very unlikely that this is a causal effect of the treatment on wages because hourly rates are conditional on being hired. And so what it seems like is this is changing the composition of who gets hired. Okay, so now, sort of very importantly, what about employer satisfaction? We're to remember that if the signaling view is true, then obscuring a job seeker's true writing quality is going to make employers hire worse workers, and then they'd likely be disappointed with the quality of work they receive. And if the clarity view is true, then employers are more likely to hire high-quality workers. But because we see that wages go up, we're going to predict no impact to employer satisfaction. Okay, so first, these sort of labor market outcomes, there was no less demand for these workers upon getting hired. Hours worked can be thought of as sort of a proxy for employer demand of their work, and we see no effect there. There's an increase in earnings, but this is kind of mechanical because we see an increase in wages. So earnings seems to go up, but no more than you would expect given the increase in wages. And then it doesn't seem like there is a difference in the likelihood that, conditional on being hired once, that a job seeker is rehired. Okay, and then the other thing we're going to talk about is ratings. So at the end of each contract, the employer and the worker both rate each other. They give both numerical and text-based ratings. And so we're going to use the text of these reviews in order to try and capture employer sentiment. So, you can see that here are some example reviews. They're either positive or negative. Positive includes neutral. They're about 80% positive or neutral, 20% negative, which is very basic sentiment analysis. The one caution I will give is that of this sample of 200,000 workers, on all of their jobs, only 1,100 got reviews left on them. So this is a much smaller sample than the rest of it. Okay, so now we're just going to look at all of these different types of ratings. So once again, these are all conditional on completing at least one job. So their private ratings we see are not different. Their public ratings, which are slightly finer grained, are also not different. And the likelihood that the text has a positive sentiment is also not different. There's a lot of inflation of ratings. There is some evidence that text-based ratings have a little bit less inflation, therefore more informative than star-based ratings. But nevertheless, there's a lot of information loss with that kind of inflation of ratings. But the big kind of takeaway from here is that if employers were less satisfied, then it was not enough that we could pick it up. I have 2 more minutes. I'm going to skip to this really quick. So one thing that you might want to ask me about is, what about writers? If you believe me that this clarity view holds, there still could be some jobs where it actually really does matter that you are a good writer. And for example, if you are doing market research, if you're doing actually writing and that is your main area on the platform, then I'm not necessarily convinced that the clarity view is going to dominate in that setting. So we do look at that here. Unfortunately, there's not enough power to compellingly really reject either thing. But I do think that it is possible that there could be a different effect to sort of different subgroups of workers. Okay, so our main findings is that algorithmic writing assistance on resumes in an on labor market helps workers get hired. We find that the clarity view dominates the signaling view. So employers don't seem less satisfied, and this suggests that resumes, or at least the writing on resumes, is maybe not a particularly useful signal of ability. This is robust, so looking at sort of every version of ratings we have, employer demand, text reviews. But there's a bunch of limitations. One of them is this is a partial equilibrium. We do not know what would happen if this was rolled out market-wide. And then what I've just said about writers. And then also that, once again, this is a language model, like this software is a language model, but it is not generating entire pages of text for the workers. And it is possible that there could be stronger or different impacts, or the signaling view could be stronger in a world where people are just having ChatGPT write everything entirely instead of still leaving a little bit of your fingerprints on it. So more research is needed on this topic. That is it.